Hello, everyone. Welcome to another First Wednesday webinar. This will be our technically last one of our series. We will have June and July off for the First Wednesday webinar. If you can take a minute, say hello in the chat, add your name and organization, let us know where you're from, let us know if you've gotten your PAYS reports. They are published. They have gone to the districts and the authorized data users at the county level. They will be posted on the PCCD website by the end of the week, hopefully at the county for the county and the state, and the all question by grades county reports also will be available for everyone to utilize. I'm going to give everybody a minute. We don't have any polls today. There will be a survey coming out with the MailChimp and our video recording that will ask a couple questions with your feedback from what we've learned from the 2025 survey. And I would appreciate it if you can take a minute. Hopefully I'll make it fairly short, as short as I can. But we're looking at participation and consent, communication and messaging, and administration materials, and the data use and value. And we really want to have the feedback from everybody here. We're continuing to make the PAYS better from my view, right? But here I am, like I am doing the work in the background, and I'm not using the data in the SCAs, in the schools. So I really, really am searching for feedback as to where you saw roadblocks, what went well, what was great for the 25 survey. And some of you may have gotten these types of surveys from Bach Harrison and given that feedback to them. They have passed that along. So right now is where we were looking at 27, and I've said 27 is a year away. I mean, we're going to be getting ready to recruit in less than a year, which sounds a little bit crazy, but that's where we are. So we will be moving ahead, and I want to make sure that I have all the information from those of you that participate, especially that participate in this First Wednesday webinar frequently. So the survey will not be coming after this. It will be coming with your MailChimp with the recorded video. Lee and Phyllis are both on a cruise and they are not joining us today. And Katie is presenting, so Mary will be here to be doing our presentation today and working through the profile reports, what has changed, how you can utilize the all question by grades report. There's a lot of information that is always surrounding the report release, and we hope that everybody gets some beneficial information from going through them. Yes, I hope they are not on the same cruise. They are not on the same cruise, Erica. Thank you very much. They're on separate cruises. And hopefully they're on a safe cruise, because there is some news about cruises at this point. So let's hope they are having a good time and come back happy and healthy. And then again, Mary will be here, not Katie, but Mary will be presenting to us from Bach Harrison about the 2025 PAYS profile report. And I'm going to stop sharing so Mary can take over and share with you all of the wonderful information that she has. Oh, and see, Kayla, I just forgot about that because I addressed it with you. I do want to touch base briefly. We had talked about the authorized data users. If you are not an authorized data user, you can get your superintendent to, as simple as an email, I authorize so and so from wherever you are from to have the district level data for our school district. And I will pass that. If you get that to me, I will make sure to pass that along to Bach Harrison. They will make sure then that you are an authorized data user and you will receive a link to be able to access district level reports and the web tool at the district level. Again, we always want everybody to be authorized data users prior to this point. But if you are not, we know that there's a lot of hoops. Everybody's busy. So if your superintendent did not add you as an authorized data user, please send me an email with their permission, and we will make sure that we get you to have permission to be able to access the district level reports at the on the web tool and in the district level profile reports. Okay, and that is it. And I am now going to stop sharing and hand it off to Mary, and she will let us know what's happening with all of the profile reports.
Okay, great. Yeah, welcome everybody. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, all right. Happy to be here, subbing in for Katie. The reports are out. Hopefully you have seen some. County reports will be out really soon. And yes, we are happy to facilitate any need of anybody to become an authorized data user. It is really as simple as getting something in writing, just a very simple email from your superintendent, and then we can add you to our system. And then when the web tool is out, we can get you added there. So today I just want to cover some final participation counts, and go through just really quickly our two main report types, which are the profile report and the all questions by grade report. I know most folks who sign up for First Wednesdays at 1 have seen these. You are very familiar with these, but we've been learning through our PAYS user experience research that we're doing right now that not everybody is as familiar with them as others. So I just want to cover kind of some of the differences you'll find in those, and then walk you through the reports themselves. So as Elise mentioned, all reports were shared out on, or at least to districts and to charter schools and private schools, were shared out on the 30th of April, according to our contract. That's the contracted date that we have. All of the state and county reports will be up on the website very soon. And in general, we created 450 profile reports and all question by grade reports for districts and charters and private schools. So great participation this year. Overall, the participation was wonderful. It was just this smidge higher than 2023. So driving up participation, making sure districts get as much participation as they can is one of our goals, and we managed to increase it a little bit, and we'll continue on with that. So we had over 267,000 surveys completed in grades 6, 8, 10, and 12. This was, in general, again, just kind of really great participation of eligible students that took the survey. We had over half of eligible schools participate, which is also wonderful. In terms of demographics, a pretty even split between male participants, female, and then those marking other. Race, ethnicity, these demographics that we're seeing in the PAYS overall participation, really similar to what we see across demographics for the PAYS or Pennsylvania student population. And sixth grade is where we had the highest participation there in terms of eligible students. Let me walk you through again our two report types, the profile report and the all questions by grade report. You might recall the all questions by grade report is still kind of new. Honestly, this is, I think, the third administration in which we are producing this. And so this is one we definitely know that not everybody is using, and I want to just talk about some use cases for that. Profile reports, you might recall, this is kind of the report we've been providing since Bach Harrison took over this project in 2013. So this is a report that in general provides information on survey methods, participation, changes across administration. You might recall that the profile report covers the past 3 administrations. So you can do longer term trend analysis, but for example, you would have to, this report covers data for 21, 23, and 25. So if you found the report from 2019, you could look at the 3 previous administrations and kind of map it out there. But in general, the profile reports cover a lot of the specifics about just what the survey is and kind of how it has changed over time. The profile reports also provide a lot of context and information on different topic areas, why these subjects are so important. So I know not I like to tell people who are brand new to PAYS or maybe even new to their role in a field of prevention that reading the profile report from cover to cover is actually a really great overview of just the different topics that PAYS covers, of just the field of prevention in general. Not everybody wants to do that. So, but I would encourage you all, there's really great context, really great information, and particularly if you are new to PAYS or are training someone who is new to PAYS, encouraging them to really dig into the information and the context in the report is also just really helpful. Something unique about the profile report is also includes some text-based analysis and interpretation of the data. So honestly, if you're a chart and table person, you probably love to go straight to those. Sometimes we just want some text to help us interpret the data. So you can see, for example, I've highlighted this from the mental health concerns and suicide risks subsection, where you're going to see just in general some really quick highlights. So for example, we're pulling out that 30.4% of students in the state said that they were depressed or they marked the question at times, I think I am no good at all. And so we are pulling in just some text-based analysis, which is helpful. It's helpful to read this before you look at the charts and tables there. Likewise, for the profile report, something that is unique about the way we're presenting the data here is these data are dichotomized. And so that means essentially that we're not showing every single response option. More often than not, we're rolling up response categories in a way that allows you through one quick data point to understand the biggest takeaway from that question. So for example, this question here on the left, past month overall mental health use is good. We're just presenting the percentage that allows you really quickly to get an understanding of the students who marked that it was good. We're not showing you all the response options that come with that question. So we're not really focusing on students who said that their mental health overall was bad. So in terms of dichotomize, we're just giving you kind of a snapshot of what we understand from that question. The profile report also includes a small amount of what we call cross-tabbed data. So this is looking at any question by any question. It helps us to understand and study the relationships between one topic and another. So this is an example of a page from your profile report that shows the relationship between bullying or skipping school due to feeling unsafe at school or on their way to school, relative to different mental health and suicide ideation measures. So you can see the relationship between those. This is hopefully like a good little teaser for what you can do in the web tool with the crosstab tool there, which is to look at any question by any question. And so if you dig into these, I think there's just 2 pages that cover this type of analysis. If you're really intrigued by these, I hope you would go to the web tool where you can really dig into this type of analysis. Another thing that's really great about the profile report is that this is probably, of all the reports we produce for PAYS, this is the one place where you will get the most in-depth overview of the risk and protective factor model. You'll get a better understanding of the risk and protective factor scales, how they're calculated, and prevention specialists love these data. They dig in all the time, but if you are new to kind of how the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania is doing prevention, or how your local prevention specialist really uses this in a way to kind of look at risk and protective factors as like a predictive model for decreasing different problem behaviors, this section is the place for you, and this is a tremendous resource. So in general, why would you use a profile report? Profile reports are great for tracking trend data. They highlight, I would say, the metrics you're probably most likely to be focusing on. They're definitely better for visual data users. So again, if you love a good chart, you're going to love the profile report. They're great for people who just need more context or information. So like I said, people who are new to prevention or just maybe want to learn more about the topic. It also this is the document that serves to document the ins and outs of the administration. So if you've got an administrator who's not really quite sure about the ins and outs of PAYS, this is a great resource. This is the best resource for documenting the risk and protective factor model. So if you've heard a lot about it and you want to learn more about it, this is the report for you. This also has a very hardy contacts for prevention section in the past. So if you are a data user where you're like, this is great data, but what do I do with this? What are the resources that are available to me? This is also the report that's great for that. And then overall, I feel like this is probably the most comprehensive overview of PAYS data and the state's overall prevention model and resources. The second report that has recently been distributed is the All Questions by Grade report. And this is the cover of it. This is one that's landscape. I believe you have to use legal size paper if you want to print this off in a way that you can print off every page without it shrinking it. This is something that provides, honestly, just one single page of text-based information. So it provides just a very brief introduction of what you're looking at. Over here on the right, there are different kind of hyperlinks to the different sections of the report. And then most of the report are pages like this, where it is granular, in-depth data tables. And literally what this is doing is providing you every single data point gathered from the survey. And so not gonna lie, this is a lot of data, and sometimes people can find this overwhelming, but this report is essential to providing transparency, to presenting the data in ways that we simply can't in what we're trying to keep as a pretty tight and concise profile report. And these are the data that will allow any data user to kind of follow your curiosity, to take your data work to the next level. This is the granular level of data that might allow you to really dig in terms of creating a report or to apply for a grant. Loads of great use cases for this All Questions by Grade report. And I know it's on our wish list to provide more training and support to those of you who maybe want to use this more or are but maybe are intimidated by it or just simply don't know really how to leverage the strength of this particular report. So why should you use this? In general, I feel like this is a tremendous companion to the profile report and the web tool. So I encourage everybody to start with your profile report. You're going to study the profile report for an overview of the topic. And then I would encourage you as you're going through that profile report to just flag, honestly, what you're curious about. Like, oh, this is interesting. I'd really like to dig into this topic more. Or, oh, I'm writing a report on this. Or, oh, I've got a grant coming up for this. And just flag it. And then whatever you flag to then turn to your All Questions by Grade report to really dig in. So for example, let's say you're curious, you're doing some community work and you see that your scale score for community perceived availability of drugs and handguns has decreased. And you're like, well, I wonder what's really driving that decrease, or what does that really mean? This is where you could go to your All Questions by Grade report and see, okay, has the perceived availability of handguns, is that what's driving this? Is it the perceived availability of marijuana that's driving this? Or we've been really working on making sure that vapes are not at all available to students. Is that what's driving this decrease? And so that curiosity, like, I wish I knew more about this, or what's the broader story, is what you would be able to go to the All Questions by Grade report to really dig into. Or for example, let's say you know some students in your school or in your district are using alcohol, and you wonder, well, how frequent is that? Is that kind of like a once-off sort of experimentation? Is this something that they're doing more often? In the profile report, we're simply telling you who's used. We don't tell you how often they're using, what that use looks like. And so the All Questions by Grade report allows you to go in and see how students are marking each question in terms of frequency or type, and then to track changes over time, and then also by grade. And then also, this is the All Questions by Grade report is also the only report that shows counts. So the profile report focuses on percentages only. The All Questions by Grade report shows you the percent of students who mark each response option and the count. And honestly, being able to quantify different behaviors and perceptions, this is an incredibly helpful tool. This can help you do next level prevention work. This can help you to communicate the results in a way that just lands differently. I would say my mind works in percentages quite well. Not everybody's does. And honestly, sometimes if you can go to a community and say, hey, we've got 10% of our students have seriously considered suicide in the past year, and they're like, oh, wow, that seems high. If you can go to a community and say, uh, 87 students that are sixth graders were seriously considering suicide in this community, like, I think in that we can visualize 87 students packed in an auditorium and think, oh my gosh, that number, it just lands differently. And so being able to access those numbers and quantify them is a powerful way to communicate out the results of this and what we know, and to kind of, I think, put a more humanizing effect to talking about the data. It's also good for tracking impact. If I know we're not following the same group of students every time we hit PACE, but if you can say, well, in 2023 it was 87, and in 2025 it is 59. That shows a really demonstrable change that often can, again, kind of hit different, land differently in a report or in a grant kind of evaluation. So what's new or different in this year's reports? In general, you're going to find the main differences are honestly just kind of follow the differences in the change in the survey. And so I know we've talked about some of the differences in this year's survey, but in general, you're going to find changes like a little bit different presentation of the data for race ethnicity. For our race ethnicity question and table, just because that question changed a lot. A new question or new questions on the survey were about nicotine pouch use. So if you look for those in your profile report, those are new. We did combine this year low frequency illegal drug use questions into broader categories. So I'll show you what I mean by that, but you'll find that that's new in this year's survey or in this year's report. Also, we have a new section on screen time, gaming, and social media use. So I would encourage you to find that in your report. And you'll also find some differences too. And we revised questions on types of abuse or abuse reporting, after school activities, housing mobility, and then sources for obtaining data. And so you'll see some differences there. So let's look at this report. Enough of me talking about the reports. Let's look at the reports together, and let me highlight some things that you're going to see. So this again is the profile report, and I'm just going to highlight, I'm not going to go through every page, just some of the things that you're going to see that are different. I encourage everybody to, again, whether you're new or returning, to just take a look at the table of contents and just get a sense of, get a handle on all the different topics that we cover. One thing we really try hard to do with the profile report is to make sure that honestly we're touching on every single question within the survey at some level, some in more depth than others, but in general, just get a sense of all the data that are here. Again, you can flag what is of interest to you, or honestly, maybe you're looking through and saying, well, I don't really do anything with this, but I know someone who does. This is a good opportunity to just get a handle on what is in this report so that you can also share it and recommend others to it. The goals and overviews, this is a great, if you don't read a whole lot of text in the report, I would encourage you to read this section cover to cover, or at least from the start of the section to the end. This is going to give you an overview of this year's survey in terms of participation levels, validity, confidence intervals that you could use to kind of apply to your data. And then also there are some links to the PACE web tool, our PACE guide, and of course, for new people, hopefully an opportunity for them to come to this webinar. And then you'll also find a link to where you can access the reports online. Really quickly, demographics changes. So this is our standard demographics report. You're going to see that there's a lot of missing data here, a lot of NAs in terms of not available or not applicable. This is because in 2025, we did a big modernization of the way that we're asking students about race ethnicity. This came from, honestly, a lot of the work we did for the fourth grade survey in terms of testing and doing some rigorous testing of these race ethnicity questions on younger students. And so this was designed to make these questions more accessible to students. In doing so, these data aren't really comparable to previous data. So if you're curious to see maybe how these things might track, it won't be an apples to apples comparison, but I would encourage you to find a 2023 report or earlier so that you can kind of see how the demographics might have shifted roughly in your area. In general, the next thing I want to highlight are some positive changes. So when it comes to substance use, um, in general, let me just preface it from 23 to 25, a lot of positive changes across the state. And I'm hopeful that at your local level, you'll also see similar positive changes. So a lot of, there is a general sense, even in our work, doing similar surveys across the nation, many states are seeing things return to pre-pandemic levels, or a lot of those spikes that we saw, or maybe even kind of stagnant data that we saw around the pandemic. Things are really returning to kind of, I think, just a more positive level. And substance use, we've been seeing some really positive decreases, and this year is no different. We're seeing some really continued decreases across many substance use categories. So you can see, for example, lifetime alcohol use, marijuana use, inhalant use, and vaping. We continue to see decreases in terms of lifetime use there. You can see even for sixth grade. So one of the takeaways from the 2023 administration was that sixth graders we're kind of having a stubborn year in terms of we might have seen positive changes in other grades, but sixth grade data was either holding steady or in sometimes actually increasing. And from 23 to 25, we're seeing that a lot of the changes, positive changes we're seeing for eighth graders, 10th graders, and 12th graders, we're also seeing for sixth graders this year, which I feel is a really big win. Similarly, this just shows the same substances for past 30-day use, which is more of a measure of regular use. And you can again see a lot of the same changes. So we're seeing decreases in terms of experimentation with substances. We're seeing decreases, not as significant, but still solid decreases in terms of past 30-day use. And again, a lot of times for example, sixth grade use, we're seeing those positive decreases like we're seeing for older students. The next thing I want to highlight is on page 22. So this is one of the changes in the survey that I just want to highlight, and kind of I want to point out how what you're seeing this year in your report and how that reflects the changes in question. So you might recall that in 23 and previous, we would ask, for example, in this instance, in the past 30 days, how often have you used hallucinogens? And then separately, we would ask, how often have you used ecstasy or Molly? Or in general, how often have you used heroin? And then how often have you used crack or cocaine? And then how often have you used methamphetamines? So what we did was, in the interest of decreasing the survey length so that we had some room for screen time social media questions, and because these were very low use substances to begin with that actually hadn't changed a whole lot over time, is we are trying, or in 2025 we decided to take a stab at rolling some of these categories together. And then so this allows us to continue to track trends for this substance category, and so we can still keep an eye on it. So if for any of these categories we might see, let's say hypothetically we did see a spike in heroin, cocaine, crack, or methamphetamines use. Then in a future administration, we could say, well, okay, we need to understand that spike maybe we should return back to how we were doing it. So this allows us to kind of keep an eye on these substance use categories without increasing the length of the survey for students. And then in general, we're hopefully not losing a whole lot. So what does that look like? So now in this year's report, you'll see that we've rolled these together. So we've rolled together, for example, any use of hallucinogens, ecstasy, or Molly. So this is any use of any of these. Also heroin, crack, and cocaine. And then we've rolled together to synthetic drugs. So so you might be saying, well, okay, we changed those in 2025. How are we able to compare to 21 and 23? It's because we recalculated the 21 and 23 data, so it also mirrors that any use of those substances. And that's why we're going to be doing some really rigorous statistical testing on changes like this to kind of track the impact. So far, I feel pretty good about that these data are comparable. Again, we'll know more as we dig into that analysis, but in general, we didn't see a whole lot of changes that we didn't also see in other substance use. The data kind of makes sense. So for example, if we look at heroin, crack, cocaine, and meth as a combined category. You can see even when we recalculated the 21 and 23 data, similarly, we saw kind of a spike in any use in sixth grade and 23 that has decreased. Similar to other substance use categories, we're seeing decreases across those. So in general, just know that this is something you're going to see that's different in your report, and it all stems back to kind of the changes that we made in the 2025 survey. Let me show now, I want to highlight just some mental health data. Loads of possible positive changes from 23 to 25 here. And I know this is one topic, this pulls on my heartstrings. This is definitely a section of the report where every single student who's struggling with this really, I think this is definitely a topic I feel like that everybody has been watching kind of with bated breath is we all saw that kind of gradual increase of negative mental health behaviors and increase in suicide ideation. And so 25 data is showing just some really positive changes across mental health topics. So when we see consistent like if we see one change in one survey within a topic, one positive change, we think, oh, that's really interesting. It's something else when we see uniform and unilateral movements either up or down across a topic area. This gives us more hope that, and honestly, more hope and confidence that we are seeing really universal changes in this instance in mental health for our students within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So this is just highlighting some of the mental health topics. So for example, we asked students for the past two administrations to kind of let us know if they're thinking their mental health is currently good or poor. Also some positive change, so an increase in terms of students who said that they felt that their overall mental health was good. We see decreases in students who felt depressed or sad most days in the past month in terms of our different measurements for depressive symptoms. For self-harm, this is one area where we are seeing a little bit of stagnated data for sixth and eighth grade, which tracks with what we're seeing in other states, but a significant decrease in terms of self-harm for 10th and 12th graders. Also, we're seeing decreases in terms of suicide risk, in terms of suicide considerations for sixth graders. Also, this was the first year where we saw a positive decrease in terms of mental health or suicide ideation for sixth graders, but positive changes in terms of consideration, and then a planned suicide and then attempted suicide. Let me go now to our new section, which is on screen time. So this is screen time, social media. We also have a question on gaming. And so let me walk you just really quickly through the data that you're going to see in here. This was one area where we have questions on access to screen devices, rules around screen devices, and then frequency of use of different types of just sort of things you can do on your screens, I would say. This is one topic where honestly, topic area in the report where honestly we did not dichotomize. I don't know if we dichotomized anything or we dichotomized very little. So, because these questions are so new, a lot of our approach to analyzing these and kind of studying the value of these new questions is to see how these data track with you, to see honestly how actionable the data are, to see what you choose to do with these data. Are these going to be just simply oh, that's really interesting? Are you going to build plans around these data? Are you going to set goals around these data? Are you going to implement programs or implement changes in your district? So we're curious to see how you guys are digging into these data, and part of that is just showing you as much data as we can. So not surprising, the percent of students who say they have a phone that goes on the internet increases through 12th grade. A majority of students, 91.7%, say that they do have a internet capable phone. We also ask students if they have a social media account. So again, not surprising, a majority of students, particularly in the 8th, 10th, and 12th grade, say they do have a social media account. Surprising was the number of students or the percent of 6th graders who say they have a social media account. I think all social media accounts right now have an age restriction. And so I think this is particularly alarming. It was interesting looking actually at the results of our 4th grade survey that a good percentage of 4th graders also have some type of social media account. So this is definitely, I feel like, a big area where we really want to dig into this more. This is also something where I think this would be interesting once the web tool is updated to look at these data relative to things like mental health, like bullying, sleep, different behaviors. This is a great example of a question. If you're curious about social media's impacts on kids within your area, this is a great example of a question to crosstab when the web tool is released. We asked students how many hours on a typical school day do you spend on social media? And so this, you can see most social media use kind of spikes at 2 to 3 hours. And of course, for the students in that 2 to 3 hour range, it sort of gradually increases as students get older, with students in kind of high school age and being more likely to be spending 2+ hours on social media. We also asked students, about how many hours on an average school day are you playing games on an electronic device. So this would cover a game on an iPad or a phone or computer or an Xbox or gaming system. You can see the most students who are gaming, it's about less than 2 hours. That's kind of the sweet spot, and you can see students who are hitting there. It's really common across all grades. High school students are more likely than elementary school students to say that they're spending no hours on gaming. But again, this could be an interesting one to cross tab as well. And so this is one where you could take a look at, with progressive hours gaming, do you see any impacts on other behaviors? This is again another example of if you're going through and you're like, oh, I'm curious about that, flag that so that you can dig into it more in the web tool. So this is a combined in general about how many hours per school day do you spend on any type of device. This is a question that we at Bach Harrison are asking in other states. So a goal of this question is to be able to compare to other states and to get a sense of, in general, how does Pennsylvania benchmark or kind of compare to other states. We also ask students, do your parents, are you required to follow or do your parents sort of enforce their rules around screen time? Startling, a good chunk of students say that no, I never have to follow those, or I don't have to follow rules around screen time. So again, interesting data to hopefully share with your local parents. Next, let me shift to we have a Hardy section on school climate and safety. In general, this was also another area where we didn't see universal positive increases, but we saw a lot of significant increases in the school domain. And so if you are a school official joining us today, I would encourage you to look at this section and see if those positive changes also apply to your district or your area. So for example, for the question, we asked students, do you feel the schoolwork, what you're learning in school is important for later life? A positive increase in terms of the percent of students who said quite important or very important in every single grade. Likewise, in terms of students who say, we asked them or gave them the statement, I feel safe at my school. This is the percent of students marking yes or yes, a nice increase in terms of perceived safety. And then also to the question, my teachers praise me when I work hard in school, a really nice, significant increase across every grade. So I would encourage you to dig into the school climate data, a lot of positive changes there. Let me show you really quickly. I'm sorry to do this, but let me go to page 83. This is an example of a question that changed. So you might see this and say, well, I think there's data missing because haven't you guys been asking about alcohol, how students obtain alcohol for forever? And we have been asking about it for a long time, but we significantly revised the question. And so you will, if you see missing data or if you see an asterisk, definitely just take a look at the footnote. This is going to let you know that, that these data this year are not comparable to other years. Something else I want to point out is that inevitably for these questions, we have a significant portion of students who say other. And so this is, we did include, because the survey was majority online this year, a write-in for this. And so we are analyzing those data to see if we can figure out what do they, when they mark other, what do they mean? Like, what are we missing? And so interesting stuff. We're finding interesting stuff from this write-in that we've never had before. So excited about what that could mean. Also, this is important to note that not every chart or table in the report is of all students. So I don't want you to look at, if you see data that are super high like this, like for example, oh my gosh, you could say over half of our 12th graders said that they got alcohol from a friend or a sibling and they gave it to them for free. If you see data that are startling, there's probably a reason behind that. And so if you would look up here, this is sources of alcohol by students who reported alcohol use. So this is of past year alcohol users. This is where they are telling us they have gotten their source of alcohol. So really pay attention to the title of each chart or table, pay attention to the footnotes. They are there. And then also little notes like this, they are there to help you with interpreting the data. And then one other thing I want to point out is in general, if you're following risk and protective factor scales, similarly to how we saw a lot of positive changes in terms of substance use and mental health and school climate and behavior, we're also seeing those, there's a relationship between those and also what we're seeing in terms of the percent of students who are at risk for engaging in behavior. So across the board, a lot of really positive decreases in risk, the percent of students who are at risk, and then also positive increases in terms of the percent of students who are protected against those different factors within their community that might make them more likely to engage in a problem behavior. So just some highlights from your profile report. When it comes to the all questions by grade report, I want to highlight just a few things and then we can open it up to questions or we can dig in a little bit more. I'm showing you a report for Bucks County. And I just randomly pulled one out of the county pile. The main reason for that is that our state all questions by grade report, because of the weighting that we do for the school sample, it can be confusing. So looking at a county report is just a best way to sort of illustrate the things you're going to see. So like I said, this is the one page of the all questions by grade report where you're going to get any information. And so this is why I see this as a companion to the profile report. So don't hand off the all questions by grade report and expect anybody to understand different survey methods or the different topics or context for prevention. This really should be a companion to that. These are hyperlinked so that you can go to different questions. So let's say I pointed out just some examples, and I'm sorry these numbers are really small, but let me just show you like a hypothetical that I used in my earlier presentation. Let's say I've been tracking kind of community domain perceived availability of drugs and handguns. I've been tracking that for some time. And I saw in my profile report that my risk factor scale for this also showed a decrease. So in terms of really positive changes. I know because I work in this model that there are a number of questions that roll into this scale. And so I say, well, I'm curious about that. What do you think? I wonder what was really driving that. Or I wonder if the perceived availability of vaping is the same as the perceived availability of cigarettes. Going to the all questions by grade report can help you with that. So for starters, you can sort of assuage your curiosity just by looking at your 2025 data. So, and then for the simplicity's sake, I'm just going to focus on total all students combined. But let's say you work with a middle school population or a high school population. You can dig into these data also by grade. Because you have all the data, it really is just amenable to being analyzed however you need it. And so, for example, I'm looking at, okay, this is the percent of students who say it's very hard in their community to get alcohol. It's very hard to get cigarettes. It's very hard to get a handgun. It's very hard to get other drugs. It's very hard to get marijuana or very hard to get a prescription drug not prescribed to them. And then when I look at the data, I can see, within Bucks County, over half of students said it was very hard to get alcohol. 68% of students said it was very hard to get cigarettes. 85% said it was very hard to get a handgun. 89% it was very hard to get other drugs. 75% said it was very hard to get marijuana. And then 71% said it was very hard to get a prescription drug. So I can say, well, of these, students definitely feel it's, if we're looking at all substances, alcohol. Students perceive that as being most easy to get, which is probably not surprising. So it can help you just to say, okay, of these questions, which is how things land. But then you can dig deeper and say, okay, well, of grades, which grade is most likely to feel like it's very hard, or least likely to feel it's very hard to get alcohol? It's probably your 12th graders. Also, probably not surprised. But you can say, okay, let's say you've been really working within parent groups, within your local neighborhood watch to kind of decrease the perceived availability of alcohol. You can just track how your data have tracked over time. So you can say, well, in 2025, over half of our students said it was very hard to get alcohol. Oh, wow, that's actually a tremendous increase from 23, which at that point it was 44% of students said it's very hard to get alcohol. And that's even an increase from 2021. And vice versa, in terms of the percent of students who say it's very easy to get alcohol, maybe you've been tracking that and you really want to see that decrease over time. And you can see in Bucks County, it was about 18% said it was very easy. They were able to drop that down to 14.5% in 2023, and then down to 11% in 2025. So this is a great tool, again, for you to dig in, follow your curiosity, and then compare different topic areas, compare your data over time. If you're working with the middle school population or high school population, to dig in at that level, and also to really study intensity of things. So oftentimes in a risk factor scale, we're really just showing you the percent of students at risk or the percent not. Or in this case, I think in the profile report, we roll together sort of easy and very easy, or very hard sort of hard. I can't remember which we roll it together. But this allows you to look at, again, the intensity, the percent of students who say it's very hard, sort of easy, or very easy. And again, this allows you limitless options to shape the narrative when you're communicating these data out in ways that people might connect with. It allows you, I feel like, greater opportunity to do more storytelling. The other example I want to show you is on Page 12. So for example, let's say you're a superintendent or you're a school counselor who's working within the school domain and you want to focus, your district's really been focusing on providing clear, better rewards for pro-social involvement at school. So you can look, for example, of the students who say, my teachers notice when I'm doing a good job and lets me know about it. You can say the percent of students who say big no, little yes, or big yes. And then two, you can quantify it. So how cool is it that in Bucks County, if you're reaching out to parents about these really positive things that you're doing in terms of positive reinforcement at your schools, and you can say, oh, hey, did you know that within Bucks County we have over 12,000 students said that their parents notice when they're doing a good job and their teachers notice when they're doing a good job and let them know about it. Or you can say, hey, in Bucks County, we have over 10,000 students that said that my teachers praise me hard when I do a good job at school. Like that number is huge. And that again just kind of shapes your ability to tell a data story that is just different, that you can't do this with a profile report. So again, start with a profile report, see what kind of stands out to you as being interesting or you're curious to dive in more. And then please consider diving into the all questions by grade report. I swear it is just a muscle you have to develop. And then once you strengthen that muscle, you will really, really like this report. I want to show just one other example on page 33 in terms of this is looking at high prevalence early initiation drugs. So, for example, lifetime alcohol use compared to 30-day alcohol use. This is where, again, you can kind of see the intensity of things. So, again, in the profile report, you're only going to see the percent of students who have used, which is essentially anybody who marked once or twice, once in a while, regularly in the past, regularly now. You're not going to be able to see the frequency of that. So, let's say, again, in Bucks County, I want to say, well, yeah, we've got about 8.7% of students have used alcohol in the past 30 days, but are they using really regularly? Then you can say, okay, well, actually, of all of our students, 7.2% of students who've used in the past month have just used it once or twice in the past month. So it's not like they're using every single day. You've got 1.3% of students who are using it once or twice a week, and you've got 0.1 students who are using it about once a day, and then about 0.1 that are using it more than once a day. And so again, maybe you're writing a grant that focuses on heavy use, or you really want to understand students who might have a bigger addiction to a substance. You might want to dig into this frequency data that allows you to really kind of see more than just who uses and who doesn't, to see how students are using. So again, it allows you to follow your curiosity and just build out a totally different data story. These are also data that this is a type of analysis you can do in the web tool. But this, I think, is a great way to kind of just show it all in one spot. So I'm going to just open it up. Are there any questions or things you want to look at together?
There's a couple questions, Mary, that
Okay.
Sherry Larson, who is Cameron County, so they are the one
Okay.
district that don't
Um,
guidance on how, what data can be shared when you have one school district per county.
okay. That is really hard. That is really hard. Essentially, to produce a county report, we have to have more than one AUN. So more than one district or charter school or private school. So essentially, we don't want the county report to honestly be district level data. We want to make sure we're not violating the trust and confidence that superintendents have in us, that we're not going to just publicly release their data. So that said, in this instance, I would reach out to your superintendent and just say, hey, we can't produce, or Buck Harrison can't produce a county report because we just have the one district, or charter school or private school, whatever, in your county. Can I have access to your district level data? Maybe the superintendent wants you to form a more formal data sharing agreement. Maybe it's as easy as a yes, you can. But I would just really clearly communicate to the superintendent what you plan to use the data for. So I wouldn't necessarily go to the superintendent and say, hey, can I have access to your data data and then share it with your community coalition and share it with a local newspaper. Like definitely you want to work out an agreement with superintendent about how you're going to be, what's the use case, your use case for it, how it will be shared. So again, you can kind of protect that sense of trust that superintendents have. A question Amy asked, a cost per school this year for disaggregated data. Some districts choose to have us run school level reports, so you can get these kind of data at the school level, which is not unfounded. We do have like a kind of a special report request. We have to run that, and honestly, I can't remember the cost for that. I want to
I
say
feel like it was, go ahead.
250.
That's what I was gonna
I
say.
I will find that and have Elise push it out to you, the order form for that. I believe it's $250 to run per report, but I will check on that. We can also run like just a really simple, we call it a crosstab report, which just gives you every single question by grade. And so that's a really is much less expensive if you're curious to dig in, but we can follow up with that. Um,
And Jamie, I can answer this a little more specifically than Mary because she does do a lot of other states also, but there are 67 counties in Pennsylvania. Not everybody gets a county report. I will say that we've gotten down to where all the county we have 63? There's like, I think we are down to 4 counties that they don't receive a county report. And there's one district, and I think that doesn't have anybody who participates. So there are those couple isolated scenarios where like Sherry and Emporium and Cameron County, they have one district. So their county has one district. So they cannot have a county report publicly released like on the PCCD website, because then that would be, again, as Mary said, violating the confidence that the superintendents have in us to not share their data. So there are those instances for the 67 counties, but I think we pride ourselves on there's a lot of, like, we have a pretty good percentage of counties that don't, that have the profile reports and the county reports that come. And then Sherry, so is the parent asking for a public meeting with the superintendent? Do you like, you could unmute yourself. I tried to unmute everybody and I don't know where to put that button is. Yeah, because I'm not sure how you're just going to have to be very strategic in your sharing. Their whole entire report cannot be shared. It's just not it's not like a right to know. It's not anything else. It is just the school district's data, and they do have the information on that. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
and I
sticky.
mean, the superintendent could allow it, or what we're encouraging other states to do is to create more meaningful tools to share at least some highlights with parents. You know, a lot of parents are just curious. You know, they may have seen the passive consent form come through, and they're like, "Oh, I wonder what happened. I let my kid. I didn't say no to that survey. I wonder what happened with the data." And a lot of parents are going to be too overwhelmed. To look at a full report and they just want some data. So, kind of to assuage that curiosity, we are encouraging other states to find ways to encourage every district to at least share a few data points with parents that can actually go a really long way.
And Sherry, if you want to, like, we can even hop in a Zoom, or we can do something where we can review that and make a little bit of a one-page document that the superintendent would feel comfortable sharing as to things that are going well, things that are not. We will have a summary report but it will be on the state level, like what we're seeing and where the data is giving some great points. But again, that's at the state level. So if we want to use county and district, we can absolutely work together and kind of just, you and I can go through and make some bullet points and make a nice little graph, little something that we can share with parents. So reach out to me and we'll definitely get something on the books. And I'm sorry you couldn't unmute. I couldn't figure out how to unmute everybody either. So anyway, all right, well, there we are. Any other questions right now? And you all know I am here. You have hopefully my email. I have gotten a lot of requests. If you are not an authorized user, I know I have sent quite a few county reports out. They will be on the website hopefully by the end of the week. We're meeting tomorrow with the communications team at PCCD, and they should be able to put that information on the website so everybody can have the 2025 reports. And last plug for the PLP, we're definitely looking at the PLP for the web tool course to be able to hopefully people then can go in and look at the web tool. Again, Buck Harrison provides us so much information, and most of us are not data scientists, right? So we try to get it out there in the best way that we can. And if you can get a piece of information, or like Mary said, with the all question by grades, this is really only the third time, the third administration that has been created, and it does give you a lot of information. So, all of you, we can tell a data story from many different perspectives, and I think that we have the tools to do that between the web tool, all question by grades, and the profile report. So be on the lookout for this recording coming to you next week. And again, there'll be a survey attached for what went well, what hasn't, what we can improve. And if you can please take a minute and do that, I would appreciate it. All right, everybody, we will see you in August. We are not here June or July, but you know where we are. So send an email if you need anything, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.